Why people are not able to see God? Though they keep on asking this question, still they are not able to see God because they are not as serious as they talk about. That means they are not as sincere as they should be. That means their mind is not towards God as it should be. Why? It is not without reason. And Sri Ramakrishna points out one cannot be guileless without a great deal of spiritual discipline in previous births. That means guilelessness is very important factor in seeing God. He means to say that a hypocritical and calculating mind can never attain God. So, he has diagnosed the reason why people are not able to see God. The answer is very simple, one line answer. They are not guileless. That's the point. Now, why people are not guileless? It is because of their involvement in things of the world. If you see how the trend is going on, it is not difficult to find out that the present age is dominated by the tremendous advance of scientific knowledge and technological explosion with a materialistic outlook. So, it is characterized by intense activity with a fast tempo of life in the outside world, with all its complexities, competitions and conflicts. Because of that, the mind is externalized and one is lost in a maze of bewildering multiplicity of the world and vastness of space and time. So, one is caught up on restless activities and groping movements. As a result, he is as it were cut off from his moorings and set adrift on the sea of life. Consequently, one begins to doubt seriously if God realization is compatible at all with such a hectic life, with demanding circumstances crowding around him. Is it ever possible to realize God? It's all fiction. So, people begin to think this way, and man with his egoistic, psychosomatic individualism is, as it were, self-alienated from his own true being in God, the universal reality. So, we must make a clear distinction between life in the world and worldly life. Life in the world and worldly life, they are distinct. A selfish, aggrandizing worldly life is certainly opposed to God realization. But not a life in which one conducts one's activities in a spirit of dedication to the Lord and as a service unto humanity. It all depends upon how you do your activities. The point is, if one is intent on seeing God, one must not make the body and its cravings the center of one's activities, but look after it properly like a very useful and valuable instrument. And use it in the service of the divine, in and through other embodied beings, that is, members of the family and society and other creatures. There's a great scripture, Bhagavad. It's a wonderful scripture. Contains ocean of spiritual ideas. There, Lord Krishna says, one should engage himself constantly in working for the good of all other living beings through wealth, speech, intellect, and other activities of life. Whatever the changes in the outer environment, in spiritual life and God realization, we have to tackle the inner environment, wherein lies all the obstacles to the peace and happiness of oneself and the world. So the inner environment has always been the same in all times, and It is the imbalance in the inner environment that leads to the imbalance and conflict in the external world. So, we have to recognize it. It is the inner enemies of one which work havoc in the outer world. The inner enemies, the products of our unregenerate nature, are pointed out as lust, anger, greed, delusive attachment, pride and jealousy. These are all well known. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya in Sanskrit. These are nourished by our egoistic individualism. We make them very strong. They become very powerful. With their roots well established in our mind, they won't allow you to go in any other way. Once you have given power to them, you can't withdraw the power from them. That's the tragic part of it. So it is extremely difficult to tame, to keep all these under check. It is only through the knowledge of one's higher divine self, Atman, or God realization, the perception of the underlying spiritual unity of all things, of all existence, that one can overcome these and attain peace and happiness individually and collectively, and not through mere manipulation of external environment. So, there is a way to look properly. Activity is a way of life and not the goal of life. Activity is a means, and God or self-realization is the goal, where activity finds its fulfillment. The fulfillment of the activity should be realization of the spirit. All work culminates or finds its fulfillment in knowledge, says Bhagavan Krishna in the Gita. Sarvam karma akilam partha jnane parisamapyate. So Gita also mentions in clear terms, yoga is dexterity in action. This dexterity in action relates both to its external and its internal aspects. Dexterity. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Externally, the action is efficient, adopting every care as to the means for its successful accomplishment, and internally, he remains calm, resting in the self, untainted by the effects of the activities, since he is not attached to the results. which are dependent on factors not in his control. You may be doing certain type of work with all zealousness, with all devotion and dedication. It's all there. But suddenly storm comes. Something happens which is not in your control. You can't ask the storm to stop. No. So there are many things that may occur in the course of our doing action. So that's the point of telling, not giving your attention to the results all the time. Keep on doing the things properly with steadiness and calmness. Then you will have the wonderful effect upon yourself. It points out that a person who works steadily, moving amidst all the objects of the senses, with a controlled mind and with self-possession, free from all attachments and aversions, likes and dislikes, attains peace. He goes beyond all sorrow, and his mind gets attuned to the reality soon. So God realization is not filling in something from outside or envisioning a divine being that is somewhere outside, but it is the manifestation of divinity within oneself. That God realization, how do you achieve? By exhibiting, by manifesting the divine quality, the divine nature in yourself. Once you do that, that means you are face to face with God. That God is in your own self. Then you will see the same God in every form, in every being, animate and inanimate. Then you will be overjoyed to see the glories of God everywhere. You will be full of joy and joy only. As Swami Chidananda said, religion, this definition is remarkable. Religion is the manifestation of divinity within oneself. One must do self-examination of one's motives of work. If it makes you more and more selfish, more and more greedy, more and more worldly, then such type of activity will not lead you towards fulfillment. On the other hand, such type of activities will take you away, away, far, far away from the truth. So, activity combined with wisdom and self-knowledge not only leads to freedom but ensures great results as well in the social context. So we have to understand all these factors when we do things. Simply telling, I am not able to see God, I didn't have vision, this, that, it will not help. Prepare yourself properly. Become strong physically, mentally, spiritually. become good and noble in every respect as far as you can. Be very cautious and conscious about things you are doing. Then you must get good result. How to know? Here are the models for us. The great life of Sri Ramakrishna is in front of us. The great life of Holy Mother is there. Swami Vivekananda is there. Life of saints and sages are there throughout the world. Sages and saints are same. The nature of the sage and saint is the same everywhere. So, that's the way how we should conduct ourselves in the world. Otherwise, we will be lost in the world. So, to get real peace and real joy, to see God, we have to develop your inner personality very well. You must create good inner environment. Your inside must be very clean. Then you will see all the glory. So, come in contact with holy association and spiritual ideas are very important. Then only you will be saved from the hectic activity outside. But the way in which people are running after shows their belief in God depends upon how much they get benefit, monetary benefit from the world. So, even seeing God is only for the purpose of getting more salary, getting more comforts, getting more this and that. That is satisfying more desires. He wants God only for those reasons. But you must know, nobody can fulfill one's desires thoroughly. You are about to satisfy with one set of desires, immediately another set of desires already on the way. They pounce upon you. They keep on continuity. Desires lead to desires. That's the law of nature. Desires lead to desires. You have to put full stop somewhere. You will have to have some kind of control over your desires. So worldly desires or worldly activity is not the be all and end all of life. If they don't give you peace of mind, what is the use of all these things? So, it means mind is to be trained very thoroughly, very rigorously. That has to be done. Then only you will become guileless. Once you become guileless, you become qualified. Even before you are calling, God Himself will come and hug you. God loves guileless. He can't stand apart from them. He immediately comes and bestows His grace on those who are guileless. So we find in Sri Ramakrishna's life when some of the youngsters would come, just by seeing them, he would jump from the seat. Oh, what a great joy to see this boy. He looks so guileless, so pure, pure-hearted. So he was filled with joy to see such people, and he would love to feed them with sweets and caress them. And immediately he would take them and guide them. Come on. You are the right person to receive this knowledge, this divine knowledge. Take it. So, let us try to become guileless. As Sri Ramakrishna said, it's a tremendous quality which is acquired by repeated births, by practicing continuously. So, that means how much practice is needed before expecting God vision. That's very important. People immediately get into depression. They are very good, they are very robust previous day. Today, they are very gloomy. Why? Because they lost the job, they did not get the job, they want the job. Job. They want to repeat, meditate on job only. Even though they have earned sufficient money, even then they want job. They don't want to think in any other way because the mind is not trained. Mind is not trained. Oh, God has given me sufficient time, why not spend my time in studies? Why not spend my time in meditation and prayers and doing voluntary service? Why not engage myself in such activities which give me peace of mind? All these things make no appeal to him. Because his mind is oriented in that way. From the beginning up to that point, is always working on job and job and job. What else he thinks afterward? He thinks only about that. Sri Ramakrishna used to give an example. One who eats garlic every day, he belches garlic only. The smell of garlic only. So, that's the point. Don't be carried away by tremendous rush, tremendous current of the worldly activities. Don't burn yourself in those activities. The embodiment of all religions, the God incarnate, who showed how to approach God, who showed how to understand all the religions of the world, who said there was no conflict among the various religions of the world. All these religions lead to the same goal, that is God, declared Sri Ramakrishna. It is not mere talking. It is not mere theorizing. He declared this out of his own practical experience. He underwent spiritual practices, practiced different religions, and approached the truth. Truth is same. It has been declared by the Vedas. Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti. Truth is one, interpreted by many ways. So this has been already said in the Vedas, the ancient scriptures of Hinduism. Sri Ramakrishna authenticated the Vedic message. So, religions are meant to be leading us towards the supreme truth, so that all people in the world could live in peace and harmony. Religion is defined as the manifestation of divinity already in every one of us. The Vedas declare the whole creation, the whole universe has been projected, created by the Supreme Spirit. Having created the whole universe, He has filled in. The whole universe is pervaded by God consciousness. So, everything that you see in this world, in this creation, is holy. So this truth has been given again by the Vedas. But it is not easy to realize this truth. It needs lot of discipline, lots of experience, lot of purity. So again, the Upanishad says, to pray to the Divine Spirit to lead us from the unreal to the real. What is unreal? The ever-changing phenomenon. The world is constantly changing. Even our body, the whole system, every moment it is going on changing. Changing. So, how can you call it real when it is undergoing changes? But there is an underlying principle behind all these changes. That principle is changeless. That is real. As long as we are identifying with the changing phenomenon, we can't avoid suffering, we can't avoid grief, we can't avoid tensions, all such things. So, Vedas are very clear in giving this message. We call it Vedanta. Vedanta is nothing but the spiritual knowledge. It is the light, the source of all lights. Vedanta is the light, the source of all lights, the substratum of everything, which I referred to in the beginning, the Supreme Spirit. So, once you are awakened to that spiritual knowledge, then the darkness of ignorance is dispelled. Darkness of ignorance. As long as we are in the dark, we are far away from the truth. So we have to somehow come out of this darkness. Bring the light. Finished. Light the lamp. In an instant the whole darkness is gone. In the same way, the Supreme Spirit embodies himself in human form to make us understand the glorious truth in the human language. He undergoes suffering. He behaves in the way how we do in this life, in this human life. He becomes one with us, and then he says, come on, this is the way to march onwards in the life. You are going in the wrong direction. You have to change the course of our direction. Herein comes the significance of incarnation. The incarnation comes only for the purpose of uplifting the humanity. It is not confined to a particular group of people or particular country. The incarnation comes for the whole humanity. So, they show by their practice how the truth could be realized. If you study the life of Sri Ramakrishna, you will find how he underwent all the disciplines required and finally experienced the truth. Getting into samadhi was very simple for him. If he hears once any divine name, that was enough for him to take him to the highest realm of spiritual kingdom. He would lose all outward consciousness, totally absorbed in the inward joy of the Spirit. So, he tells further that everyone can realize the truth. Everyone can practice religion. So religion should be understood in this way. When you practice religion with the idea of realizing the truth, then from that time onwards, your real life starts. So, the incarnations come to awaken, to give awakening to us. It is an opportunity given to the people to follow them, understand the ways and means of realizing the truth. So Sri Ramakrishna declared, based on his own experience, all faiths lead to the same goal. Finished. Why should there be conflict? Why should there be a quarrel? Why should there be a dogmatism? Why all these things? You want to go in this particular path. Go ahead. Go ahead. Why are you bothered about other man going this way? Why do you interfere in other man's way? You choose the path and go. That's all. If you have to achieve the result in a positive way, you have to concentrate all your attention in one direction. And it requires lot of preparedness. With a distracted mind, you can't go near the truth. Mind has to be established in a state of tranquility. Then only you will be able to go through in this path. So, again, Vedanta tells that it is possible for every one of us to reach that goal. Why we have been reduced to this state of ignorance? Why there is suffering? You will understand its significance only when you realize the truth. Until then, it is only a kind of just gossip. You may have 100 million seminars on suffering. Still suffering remains. You can't get rid of suffering by holding seminars. It requires a rigorous practical life. Are you prepared for that? Then you will have it. So, the paths have been distinctly given. So many yogas have come up. Path of knowledge, path of action, path of devotion, path of meditation. Wonderful. Go by any path. Don't waste your time in unnecessarily useless criticism of other religions. It's a waste of time. That precious time could have been used for covering few more steps towards the truth. Why do you waste the time in unnecessarily engaging yourself in such activities? So, herein comes the integrity of all religions. All religions are to be respected because each religion takes you towards the same path. Again, to clarify this point, there may be many streams all over the world. They all come from different sources to start with, going different ways, continuously running. Finally, they all mingle in the ocean. All the rivers join the ocean. That is their goal. It is flowing where? It is flowing towards the ocean. In the same way, all the religions, even though they may not know it, going to the same goal. And nobody can claim, I have understood God. Impossible. Whatever you have understood, it's only a fragment of truth. You can't have the full experience of truth. It requires lot of disciplines to understand this spiritual glory. So, Vedanta is very specific in giving you the fundamental principles. The first fundamental principle, as I said already, God is one, interpreted in many ways. Every being in its essential nature is divine. That is very important principle you should know. Religion is nothing but searching out, discovering the divinity. If it is not there, you can't have it. You are having already, so you can have it. And third principle is the goal of this human birth is to realize that divinity, which is one's own essential nature. And the fourth one, I have already mentioned, the way to realize this divinity are innumerable. Sri Ramakrishna has said, as many faiths, so many paths. I gave some hints in the beginning of my talk that Vedanta is not simply theorizing. It is a way of living. It's a way of living and realizing. And it gives you full freedom to evolve yourself morally and spiritually according to your own faith and conviction. What I said earlier, what is needed is simply march onwards in your path. Whatever path you have chosen. To go to O'Hare Airport, there are so many ways. It's not that all of you should go by 294. And you can't criticize a man why that fellow is going roundabout. Why do you waste the time like that? So, let each individual choose the path according to his own or her own temperament, conviction, suitability, adjustment. Once you have chosen, be determined and start walking. That's the way of life. So, who is called a Vedantin? He who accepts and respects all religions as true paths to the same goal. So this was given by Swami Vivekananda, one of the greatest disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. He gave this message of Vedanta in the Parliament of Religions in America in 1893. So, religion is therefore a search for self-knowledge, search for God within ourselves. That is a remarkable teaching which we should think deeply. I have already told in the beginning, the whole creation was projected by the Supreme Spirit and it has been filled up by that Spirit. The whole universe is nothing but God. Every bit of it is God, including everything in this phenomenon. The whole creation, animate, inanimate, human beings, animals, plants, this, that, everything. So, we have to search. We are never lost. At worst, we are living in ignorance of our true nature. That's the worst part of it. So we are having the bad result. Always depression, always worry. Finding God, that's the only purpose in life. Sri Ramakrishna said that, and also said it is possible to see God face to face. You can communicate with Him, talk to Him. He Himself was talking with God. There was no difficulty at all. So, one has to yearn to realize the truth. Longing is required. Wholeheartedness is important. Sincerity is essential. No hypocrisy of any kind should be allowed. So, All these things are required. If you want to have the real knowledge, what the knowledge you are getting in this world, it's all secondary knowledge, inferior knowledge. Secular knowledge, very inferior. So, the knowledge of the truth, which is symbolized by light. Light is a symbol of knowledge. It is a symbol of beauty. It is a symbol of truth. See the light. You get peace. See the light. You get concentrated. See the light intently. You will get rid of all mental depressions. So, the light of all lights is the light of consciousness which shines in all beings. We are all carrying on so many things in this world on account of that light shining in every one of us. Now, another important factor you have to understand when you come to study Vedanta. There is no place for dogmatism in Vedanta. Dogmatism, narrowness, they are all wiped out. So, let us now understand the point how to approach Vedanta. Everything is definite. There is no confusion. There is no ambiguity. Everything is set, clear. A human being, he lives in different levels. One is physical level. You are all aware of these levels. Second one, mental level. Third one, intellectual level. And the fourth one, the most important one, the spiritual level. How many dimensions we have got? Are we aware of them? Simply quarreling for petty things, criticizing for petty things. We are just destroying this precious human life by pettiness, by shallow arrogance and egotism. Now, how the light works in all these levels. The light, the source of all lights, shining in everyone, how that light is percolating everywhere, how it is functioning. It is amazing to understand it. Now, physical light allows us to navigate in the physical world. What does it mean? It allows us to play in a nice way. It allows us to work. It allows us to live. It's all physical level. Coming to the mental level, mental light makes us aware of our thought world. How our thoughts are grouping and regrouping in ourselves. And then intellectual light. How it tries to remove ignorance. And we open ourselves to it through study of books and scriptures. So through this systematic study, we get knowledge, and the highest knowledge is knowledge of our own true self. Now, our mental and intellectual world depends on what we expose ourselves to. Suppose if we stand in front of a statue of Abraham Lincoln or George Washington, we get a certain kind of light. The ideas of love of country and self-sacrifice are aroused in us. Suppose you stand in front of a statue of liberty. Immediately the idea of liberty, freedom, and social justice are aroused in us. In the same way, if you stand in front of Lord Buddha or Lord Christ, the ideas of eternal life, the significance of compassion, dedication, and spiritual realization, all these things are aroused in us. So, we should expose ourselves to that kind of light which helps us to know this. So, that's the important point. What is the greatest paradox of human life in this age? In spite of tremendous progress in the external world through science and technology, we do not know much about our inner life. On the contrary, we have a very wrong and mistaken idea about ourselves. We think of ourselves as an object, like any objects. But Vedanta emphasizes you are not the object, you are the subject. the knower and the master of the body and mind complex. You have been encased in this body, in this mind, to know, to realize, to experience who you are. Every time we use the word I did this, I went there, how many times you repeat I in a day? Who is that I? It is not the rascal I which always feels hurt if something happens. You must find out the real I. The real I is behind this fake I. That you have to understand by the practice of Vedanta. What has happened? We allow ourselves to be slaves of the sense organs and the body-mind complex. What is the result? Because of that, we pay very heavily for that. All our sufferings, all our weaknesses, all our fears, all bondages, they arise from this identification. I am totally identified with my body and mind. My body is everything for me. I am subservient to the body, to the mind. So, we are bound by fetters of instincts. We are bound by fetters of emotions. We are bound by fetters of sentiments and beliefs. So, herein comes the great significance of men of God who are so kind and compassionate to show us the path. Probably you are all aware of Lord Buddha's message to Ananda. He says, "Be a lamp unto thyself." What a fine statement. Be a lamp unto thyself. Lord Christ also, in the Sermon on the Mount, said, "I am the light of the world, and ye are the light of the world." The light of consciousness is always with us, though we may not be aware of it. Of course, books and external teachers may help you to some extent, but the real help must come from within yourself. You have to aspire for it. It doesn't come by itself. Unless you want it, it won't come. Probably you're enjoying darkness. Enjoy, as long as you want to enjoy the darkness. Go. When you feel disgusted, then go in for light. So the nature of the light within every being is described very nicely, beautifully in the Upanishads, in the Vedas. One of the famous Upanishads, Brihadaranyaka, there once a discussion started between the king and the sage. The king asked the sage, "What serves as the light for a man?" The sage replied, "The light of the sun. When the sun has set, by the light of the moon. When there is no sun and the moon, when there is no sun and the moon has also set, when there is no sun and the moon has also set, by the light of fire. When the fire is extinguished, by the light of speech, that is sound." Here, already we begin to see that the sage sees light in more than just physical terms. Light is that which illumines, and through sound one can see. But now the king asks, by what light we can see if there is no sound? And the sage says, by the light of the self. The self is not illumined by anything else. Here the self means not your mind, it is spirit. That is, the light of the spirit is not borrowed, it is not reflected. The moon gets its light from the sun. Similarly, all light that we see is a reflection of the light of the Atman, the spirit, the light of consciousness. Now, another important aspect I would like to tell you, and then I conclude my talk, then we can ask questions. We have taken this human body. Our real nature is covered up by 5 sheets. Sheets. S-H-E-A-T-H-S. First, there is physical sheath. This physical sheath consists of what? Blood, bones, flesh, etc. That is the first covering, physical sheath. It is highly changeable. Now, next is the Manomaya Kosha. And that by the sheath of the intellect. There's one more sheath, the 5th one, the last one, is the sheath that of bliss. Bliss. But there is also a veil, thin veil. Beyond all of these sheets, which interpenetrate each other, is Atman, the spirit. To reach it, what you should do, you have to consciously pierce these 5 sheets. Piercing. You have to discard one by one, mercilessly, if you have to reach that light of consciousness. And the Upanishad describes this innermost layer as a supreme bright sheath. It is Brahman, the supreme reality, free from taints, without pads. It is pure, it is a light of lights. In subsequent verse, the Upanishad says, there the sun doesn't shine, nor the moon, or the stars. Everything shines as he does so. By his light, all this shines diversely. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, that supreme Spirit is the light of lights, knowledge, the object of knowledge and the goal of knowledge. He is seated in the hearts of all. Sarva Bhuta Antaratma. Sarva Bhuta Antaratma. The innermost being of everyone is that Supreme Self. Call that Self, Supreme Self, by any name you want. Any name. And try to practice religion from this standpoint of view. Then you will see how glorious it is. Once you arrive at that final truth, you will be beaming with joy. Not only that, you become the friend of everyone. You become lovable. You love everybody. You hate none. That's just it. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. No enmity towards anybody. Maitraha, friendly. Karuna evacha, compassionate. All these things you will manifest in your personality. With this, to remove all our ignorance, to conquer death. Sri Ramakrishna has made it very clear in his teachings that we should strive for the realization of God. It's only when we are blessed with this final achievement, then only we will enjoy real peace and real freedom. So, that means we must make the Divine Supreme the be-all and end-all of life. We should definitely understand that life is not meant for just for the pleasures of the body. Even animals have got. So what's the difference between the man and the animal? Man has got thinking faculty, whereas animals don't have. They do their activities by their instincts. So, whatever activities we are engaged in our life, it should have the ultimate goal of attaining spiritual enlightenment. The more we engage all our resources towards the world, the more difficult it is for us to come towards God. So it's a tremendous fight between the worldly forces and the spiritual ones. If you don't give proper care and attention towards the things to be done, naturally the worldly forces overpower you, make you more miserable, make you lose all freedom, make you utterly helpless and hopeless, both. So, we should undo what we had done all these lives. That is, we must consciously turn towards God. Consciously we must turn towards God. We must aspire for it. We must sincerely hanker after it. So, Sri Ramakrishna tells you to step up your activities in that direction. You will have to convince yourself about your path, about your determination in pursuing the goal, and you must be concentrated in your thoughts about the spiritual ideas. So, in order to do all these things, you have to handle your mind. The most difficult thing in this world is handling of the mind. All other things are very easy. You can conquer the whole world, but it is very difficult to conquer your mind. Because the mind is not trained in that direction, so you have to struggle every moment. So that is why the spiritual masters always insist upon thinking about the spiritual idea, concentrating on the divine form of God, to initiate continuous flow of thought directed towards God, You may think of that Divine Supreme as any one of the gods whom you like most, or you may concentrate on your own true self, which is beyond your body, beyond your vital forces, beyond your mind. Just you have to go towards that which is beyond all these things. There, the great Atman, the Spirit, lies. It is the innermost heart of every being. So, herein comes the importance of meditation, and meditation becomes successful only when you are able to have continuous thought, uninterrupted thought towards the ideal. There are a lot of preparations for that. Everything is to be done in a systematic way if you have to have a very good result. The first thing is you have to find out yourself what are your shortcomings. That is the first step. To find out what are the weaknesses. Don't be frightened over them. Don't get depressed. You are trying to analyze them so that you can take remedial steps. So, once you become aware of them, then the next step should be to make sincere efforts to rise above them. Don't condemn yourself. I am like this, I am stupid, I am idiot, I am this, that, I am rascal, rogue. By telling that you are not solving the problem, that means you are becoming more rogue than you were before. By condemning yourself, you are becoming more condemned. That's not the way, and that will not solve the problem. On the other hand, it makes the problem more complicated and more complicated. More complication means more suffering. More suffering means more tension, more worries, more miseries, all sorts of things. So, this is a very organized way of life. Spiritual life is not a loose life. You should know. Every moment is important, every moment is precious. Everything what you do is important. Everything what you see is important. Everything what you think is important. Everything is important from the spiritual point of view. You can't afford to waste anything anyway. Whatever is gone is gone. Behave properly from now onwards. That's all what the Mahatmas say. So, the next step should be Abstinence from what you think wrong and from what degrades you. Anything that degrades you must be rejected. Don't allow any degrading thoughts into the mind consciously. And another important quality every one of you should cultivate, whether you are living as a householder or whether you are living as a monk. Both of them need this wonderful value of renunciation. The more you are established in renunciation, the more you are near to God. As Sri Ramakrishna has pointed out, we are all in the domain of Maya. Maya means, in Vedantic term, great illusion. We are all under great illusion. Here in this domain, two forces always act upon. One is the force of vidya. The other one is the force of avidya. Vidya means knowledge. Knowledge means here spiritual knowledge. So vidya is that knowledge or that process which leads you steadily towards God. The one that leads you away from God, the one that makes you run away from God, is called avidya, the opposite of vidya. Avidya leads to ignorance, avidya leads to bondage, avidya leads to misery, it leads to suffering, it leads to all sorts of fear and frustration. Now you can choose, do you want vidya or avidya? Afterwards don't complain, oh why God did like that. Don't talk about God. If you have come towards God, you would not have talked like that. That only shows you have gone away from God. So, that's very important. So, vidya, the spiritual knowledge, it is a spiritual discrimination and renunciation. These are very important qualities of vidya. So, if you take refuge in vidya, you are taking refuge in God. That's the point.